Dear Jerry, so, happy Monday. Well, what little left of it there is, if it's a Monday that you're watching this on. Um, let's get the not necessarily unpleasant, but the less than pleasant, which I guess would be unpleasant, um, stuff out of the way first. So, it was mentioned somewhere else, I don't remember where, but the fact that those of us who use AdBlock, and I do on occasion use AdBlock. I have, since I started trying to kind of push my career on YouTube, I have stopped using it because A, I need to know what ads are being displayed on my channel. B, it feels very hypocritical of me to expect other people to, you know, deal with the ads in my channel, but for me to go to their channel and not have to, and, have AdBlock running. So, okay, the main reason why I stopped using AdBlock on YouTube in particular is because, like I just said, I'm trying to use this to monetize my videos, to make a living, to further my voice acting career. Not in so much as the vlogs would help to do furthering. I mean, they might help me, build a fan base, or to make the connections I need. It would help in that regard, but it wouldn't really further it per se. But more into the point of getting me into the habit of releasing content in a timely, somewhat regular pattern. It's sort of like when you go to the gym, and I have gone to the gym. I know I'm fat, but I have been to a gym before, and I didn't just stand there looking right away. Oh my goodness! Oh geez, look at that one. Um, I have done that before, but most of the time I was usually working out as well on the ellipticals or the exercise bikes. Those are good too. Or the squat, the leg press squat machines. Just it's free weights that scare me, because especially bench pressing, I am always convinced that I'm gonna wind up just right in the throat, not my spotter, the bar, just right. And I know it's supposed to get down across my chest, but I'm convinced that at some point I'm just gonna be like bench pressing, I don't know, 800 pounds. And, I'm just going to be like, and I'm going to screw up and just right across the. And as a voice actor, my throat is my tool that I have to use to make people happy. So AdBlock. I mean, going to the gym. You do it regularly. On the days that you don't go, you start feeling bad. I mean, unless it's your day off, and you should, from what I understand, you should have like a day off that you take regularly. Um, but if you, on days that you don't go, that you're just not feeling it or whatever, and you decide not to go, eventually, if you've established this pattern, and you guys know how I am about patterns and getting into habits and things, that if you don't go, you start feeling, kind of crappy about it, because you're missing out on something that you hopefully enjoy. Now, I enjoy doing this, and I want to establish this pattern in my behavior, so that on times that I don't do it, times that I break that habit, I feel bad about it, and it drives me to want to do it more. So that's one of the main reasons behind doing this vlog, is just to get into the habit of, releasing content in a timely fashion. And it acts as a decent, hey, here's how my day went kind of thing. Which reminds me, I think my father wanted me to tell him where to find this stuff, because he doesn't really know the internet all that well. Oh, okay. So I got a few places I'll send him, but some places I'm like, stay away from them. Oh Lord. Okay. So for those of you using AdBlock, I recognize the need for it, but for those of us who are trying to make our living on YouTube, well, not make a living, but at least supplement our income with YouTube, or to use it as a tool to further our career, please bear in mind that using AdBlock to cut out ads and shit actually cuts into our revenue, if not eliminates it completely. So be careful with that, please. I'm not going to tell you you can't use it. I'm just saying that it's, you know, if you love us at all, you won't deny us our money subject. Um, I keep thinking I have a lot more to talk about because the note application that I use is kind of narrow, so there's like 6 lines of things, but it's actually only 3 things. Because, anyways, that was the first thing to talk about. Is consider disabling AdBlock when you're watching videos of people who make their living on YouTube. Okay, thank you. Now, moving on from that. The other night, a friend of mine was watching, I think he was watching Oblivion, and he was tweeting about it while he was doing so. And bringing up a lot of, why would you do this? Why is it? And I found it really amusing to watch him bitch about the movie. But there was one point where he tweeted something along the lines of, why do they seem to think that us watching experts make stupid mistakes? Do this thing. And it kind of spun up this thought process in me of, why would they do that? Why would they, if these people are supposed to be like, super advanced and intelligent, why do they continue to make stupid mistakes? Why do they do stupid shit? Okay, yeah, plot development, or at least furtherance, maybe not development of the plot, but at least furtherance of it. Fine. Even if you take that piece of the equation out, why else would they do it? Okay, maybe in a case where, you've got people who are experts in their field, but what if they're not necessarily in their field, but the other experts of working with, whatever machines it is they're working with. But if you put them into a situation they've never been in before with the equipment they're supposed to be, experts with, there could be some stressors that might cause them to screw up. Or another possibility is giving them imperfections makes it easier for us to relate to them, because we make mistakes all the time. And if the concept is, this is probably digging a little too deep, but if the concept is that as we continue to progress and we get better and better and better at what we do, that eventually we will stop making mistakes. We'll be so good at what we do that it'll be flawless. That wouldn't be very interesting to watch. And I can kind of see that. So maybe giving them, screw ups now and then, or making them do stupid stuff, perhaps that makes it easier for us to relate to them. I don't know. That's just what came to mind. The third thing, and the last thing that I'm going to talk about, I think, let's see if I ricochet off on another topic that I'm going to talk about tonight, is back when, if you watch interviews with Gene Roddenberry, about when he was first pitching Star Trek, one of the things that when he was pitching it to the network executives, he described it as a wagon train to the stars. And he said in a couple of interviews that Westerns were very popular at the time and they could understand wagon train. And I was thinking, okay, mid-60s, because that's ish when Star Trek came out. Westerns were very popular. Gunsmoke, the Rifleman. These were things that I grew up on, in the 70s and stuff. Bonanza, Westerns were still popular when I was growing up. And I thought, okay, what else was? Well, there was, Buck Rogers and, stuff like that. But that was, you're pushing a little closer to the 80s with that. But I thought, why were Westerns so popular? And I thought, okay, there are probably people, because back in 1970, or 1960, 1970, there were people who were still alive at the time. There was still living memory of the late 1800s. Granted, the people who had been alive in the late 1800s who were still alive in 1960, so right at the end of the cowboy era, because that was, late 1800s is when, all the barbed wire started going up, and, companies were sweeping through and just huge conglomerations were taking over cattle ranches and stuff, and cowboys weren't so necessary anymore. A really good example of that is to watch a Tom Selleck movie called Monty Walsh. Really, really good. It's based on a Louis L'Amour novel. It's it's one of my favorites for westerns and stuff. That and Crossfire Trail and Quigley Down Under, even though that's much further west, it's just a hell of a lot further south because, of course, it takes place in Australia. But anyway, so there were still people, there was living memory. People were still alive who had lived at the end of the cowboy era. And so westerns were things that they could relate to. And I found myself thinking, okay, so as we continue moving through our lives, our technology continues to advance faster and faster and faster and faster. We're moving further and further away from, the primitive and much barreling headlong into the technologically advanced. So does it seem that the more we advance, the further our fantasy expands outward? Because it's got to be something that we know, but we can't quite, we can relate to, but we don't know it that well. It's not a very good way of describing it, but we have to push our fantasy either so far back or so far off that, like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, it's the past because it's swords and armor and shit like that. It's way back in our timeline. Well, not our timeline, but a alternate world kind of thing. Or if it's going to be a sci-fi thing, it has to be technology that's so far advanced that we're probably not going to get to it real soon, because it's kind of like what they were talking about with EverQuest Next, how they went with a more cartoony style, like a Disney style character model, because if they tried to make it realistic, then next year it's going to look like crap, because the technology is advancing so fast that what we can do right now, making things look photorealistic, next year is going to look horrible because the technology will have left it behind. But if you make it into a cartoony kind of style, it lasts a lot longer. It has a much more enduring period. Perhaps it's the same thing with science fiction, with things like that. If you push, you have to push it far enough out that we're not going to get to it anytime soon. You have to make it so extreme, so far out there, that no, we're not going to be there in living memory. By the time we get our technology that far away, people who are alive today won't be around by the time our technology advances to that point. It seems like that's the way it goes. Or fantasy, for the stuff that happens in the past, we have to push it so far back that people who are alive today were not around when that thing happened. It has to be outside of living memory, or beyond living memory as it is. God, what's going to happen when we develop, android bodies where we're capable of downloading ourselves into mainframe, or a wetware mainframe or something like that, and we effectively become immortal? What are we going to do then? Oh my God. Craziness. Absolute craziness. Anyway, so those are the things that kind of percolate around in my head right now. Whatever. Is there anything else? Can't think of anything else. I gotta go drop an email to my dad, tell him where to find these things. So I will talk to you folks later on, probably tomorrow. You know what? It's only 10:30, so I got to this a little bit earlier. But again, I thought I had a lot more stuff to talk about because it was 6 lines instead of 3, even though it was only 3 subjects. Damn you, word rap. Right. So I will talk to you folks tomorrow, and until then, be careless.